Captain Dean Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Captain Dean Show. I'm Captain Dean, and on this episode, once again, I'm going to be talking about one of my Mark Hoppus inspired basses. I say inspired because it's not a Fender, it's not a replica. It is inspired by Mark Hoppus because it's his pick guard, it's his particular shape and style that he uses on his basses, but I'm influenced by the idea of doing different color schemes, different pick guards, things of that nature. So on this particular bass, I found it on, say it with me, Facebook Marketplace. In a previous episode, I talked about this punk rock jazz bass. Well, I got this bass and that bass from the exact same guy, and it was completely by accident. The bass I really wanted is the one I'm about to talk about. This one just came along for the ride because he was trying to get rid of it, and he didn't know what it was. It was a cheap, junky bass that was not in really good shape. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I got both of these guitars for the price of one in a nutshell. This particular bass, when I saw it, it was in really good shape. You can tell it had been played very well and taken care of. The body was kind of a reddish color, not bright red, not dark red, but just kind of in between. Had a little bit of a glitter sparkle to it, so I always hate sanding away glitter, but whatever, this is what I wanted to do with it. The original neck that was on it was a Mighty Mite licensed Fender neck, which is now on my beloved 3P bass here. That is the original neck that was on this particular bass. So I think the body was probably an older Squire body. There were no markings on it to show that it was a Fender or anything like that. So I had to nab it. The gentleman that was selling this lived a whopping 10 minutes away from me in Scottsville, Kentucky. We met at a Dollar General marketplace because Dollar General's the place to meet people when you're buying basses off Facebook Marketplace, because you get a deal. Anyway, this is that particular bass. So again, the body was in really good shape, didn't need a lot of work, it wasn't damaged or anything like that, but I knew I was instantly going to put a Mark Hoppus pick guard on it and change out the pickups to be the P-bass pickups instead. And the neck, this particular neck, this was the original neck that was on Marcus Van Hoppus, which I talked about in a previous episode. So I originally, pretty close to making this an actual Mark Hoppus replica. I almost did Sid, which was a white body with a black pick guard, and I think he used that during the Neighborhoods tour. Speaking of Neighborhoods, I came up with the name The Ghost, as in the ghost on the dance floor. I almost named this bass Heaven because it's so heavenly to look at, but I went with The Ghost instead as a nod to the Neighborhoods album. And I love Neighborhoods. I love that era of Blink. I know it was a bad time for them, but musically I love that record and I'm a big fan. Mark was still using the jazz bass bodies on that particular time frame and everything too. The interesting thing about this particular bass, and the reason why I went with the white pearl pickguard, which, by the way, it's a very sunny, beautiful day here in Kentucky, so I've got my window opened today for this particular episode. Look at how white and beautiful it is. On the Green Day Saviors tour, Mike Dirnt had one of his signature classic style P basses, and it was a white body with a white marine pearl pickguard. And I saw that and immediately fell in love with that. So that was the concept of me coming up with this. So in a way, it's kind of cool because it's a mixture of Mike Dirnt and Mark Hoppus, two of my favorite bass players, two of my favorite bands. And I just thought, why not? That's a great idea, so let's go with it. Obviously not much to tell when you do a plain color. It is what it is. Solid white. I didn't clear coat it because I want it to get scuffed up, which it's already starting to do. And I like to do that on a lot of bases I do. I don't aim for perfection in this stuff. I want it to be cool looking, but I also want it to be, raw and worn down and played and heavily, reliced on its own terms. Instead of doing relicking with a razor blade, a bass like this is going to get natural, worn, relic look and beat up on its own. Of course, I had to fill in the jazz bass pickup, which was in this particular area. This is actually one of the cleanest ones I've done. This also was the same theory I've been going with since the beginning. It was clear epoxy with a mixture of wood, chips, toothpicks, sawdust, that kind of stuff. When you chisel out the pickups to fit into these things, all that leftover dust and everything that you create by doing that is a great natural filler when you're putting epoxy in an open jazz bass cavity and you just sprinkle the wood in with it, especially when it gets right to the top of the surface. So sanding it becomes very easy and very smooth to do. I think I've got 5 coats of white on this. I think I used 2 cans. I use the Rust-Oleum high performance enamel a lot. The black and the white of that is just so good. It turns out so thick. It even looks like it's been clear coated when you do it just right. So that is really it. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just another bastardized bass, another Mark Hoppus Blink-182 inspired bass. It's got the Seymour Duncan quarter pounders with the single knob. Sounds great, feels great. I love the neck. I love the look of this thing. And there's really not a whole lot else to talk about. Although there is one other thing I need to talk about. I mentioned a lot of things on these about my local music stores. In particular, Royal Music or Music and Arts is where I shop at. There's another guy in town named Eric Self who has had a little guitar shop for a while. He's known for giving lessons, but he has stuff in his little room for sale. And he is actually just a block away from where I work. So the 2 music stores I rely on locally in Bowling Green, Kentucky are right in the same block of where I work at. So believe me, that's cool, because anytime I need strings or any kind of accessories at all, it is right there in my reach. I reached out to Eric and said, do you have any cool guitar straps for sale? And he talked to me into getting this. It's a gray and black checker pattern. I love it. Very comfortable. It's got a little bit of a padding to it. So a nod to Eric Self at All Things Guitar. He's hooked me up a few times over the years with accessories. I did buy a bass from him at one point, but I no longer own that. So not only did I get this strap from Eric, the white Ernie Ball strap that's on the punk rock jazz bass also came from Eric Self. So thank you, Eric, at All Things Guitar. My dear friend Cindy gave me this Stormtrooper button to go onto this bass because a Stormtrooper is a great nod also to Mark Hoppus, who also loves Star Wars, such as I. So the black and white Stormtrooper looks really good with a black and white bass guitar. There's really not much to it, folks. The body is unknown. I have no idea what year it was made. I didn't see anything stamped on it when I started working on it. But this particular neck, again, came off the original Marcus Van Hoppus bass when I got it. This neck is a 2005 Squire Affinity neck. Very comfortable. I love it. I loved it when it was on that bass and played it a lot when I got it painted and fixed up and ready to go. The only thing I don't like is it has those smaller keys. These are not the big, fat bass keys, even though the tuning pegs look right. These are just a lot smaller than the average, and they don't have the winding back on it. So I'm not a big fan, but you know what? It stays in tune, so who cares, right? Nobody's going to look at that. They're going to look at that. Look at that. The Ghost. Another bastardized Squire bass made out to be a Mark Hoppus inspired build. As I stated earlier, Mike Dirnt of Green Day had a signature bass on the Saviors tour that was a white body with a white marine pearl pickguard, and that was the inspiration behind this creation of a Mark Hoppus bass. This was a super easy and quick project for me to do. I simply painted the body white, and a shout out to my dear friend and bandmate Nate Miles for giving me this pickup. It definitely was put to use. So there you go, the Ghost. Roll that beautiful bass footage.